Big thing about blockchain is that it allows those decentralized systems, and so it allows for self-custody. So suddenly us as users, we can control our data, control our assets. With great power comes great responsibilities, to quote Spider-Man, right? Devices that we have, the laptops, the phones, they're amazing for consuming information, publishing information, sharing information, but they're not built to store secrets. And that's where we come in, right? For Bitcoin maxis, absolutely, it's an amazing device.
Mm-hmm.
Just use it, and it's cool. Just have the Bitcoin app. If you're an Ethereum maxi, you can do the same. If you're polyglot and love other blockchains and you want to embrace Web3, it still is the right device, and you're no less secure. Buying a Ledger wallet doesn't trap you in the Ledger ecosystem or Ledger world. Even if Ledger does disappear, you still have your hardware wallet. You still can use it with another software wallet. Then the signer gets this signed metadata and then can extract it, parses the transaction, does the mapping with the metadata, and then actually can display something to you that's in plain English. You can go, oh, okay, does that match? Is that really what I want to do? Yeah, okay, cool. And then you hold and sign in. This allows any developer in the world to actually build on a secure element. And it's like, that has never been done before. Yeah. Everyone is very aware of the problem that we have in our space with all those scammers. So we really need to protect our users and make blind signing a thing of the past.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Ledger podcast. This is day 2 of Ledger's opening of its 106 headquarters, and today is Developers Day. And it's the perfect day to talk to Carl Anderson, Ledger's VP of Engineering, because he's leading the charge on making sure that third-party developers have the tools and the information that would enable them to build with Ledger. He's also leading the charge on making sure that that beautiful building that we're in becomes a vibrant hub for communities and builders to come together. And this is everything that we're going to be talking about today. So let's dive into the conversation. Where should we start? Let's start with the 106. It's obviously the second day of the opening event. It's the Developers Day. Tell us what it means for you to actually be here and welcome the developers from all across the ecosystem to Ledger's new home.
Oh man, I'm delighted for. I think so. To me, it's very special because I started 3 years ago in the mail, tiny little office, and then we didn't have enough space. There was Gretry, the cloud. So being part of the Ledger team for a long time, we've been actually segmented in between those different locations. So the 106 is the first time in years that we actually all are together under the same roof. Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic from that perspective. I think that's number one. And then number two, I think I've never been in such a magnificent and great office, right? Mm-hmm. So it actually tells a lot to our ambition, to all the work that we've accomplished over the years. And I think it's really a statement that we want to be a centralizing force, a real hub for the ecosystem, for the crypto ecosystem, but also for tech, because we're one of the big tech companies in France. So I'd really like this to be a welcoming space for engineers, may they be in the Web3 or React or Scala, Python, all those communities, to come have meetups, and so that we can actually build together, right? Because we can't do it alone.
Exactly. And I mean, the whole thing about the space is also for it to become a hub, as you've mentioned, for developers, for communities to, come together around different topics. So,
Absolutely.
Today is probably the first stepping stone.
That's what I was exactly about to say this.
Yeah.
Like, today is exactly that, right? It's Developer Day. So it's about welcoming all the Web3 builders together and talk about what the Ledger ecosystem is, how can they build, integrate, tweak on top of this so that us all together, we were first secure the Web3 ecosystem, but also provide a lot of value to users and society.
Yeah. And there's obviously this piece, and there's also the fact that you're also renting out like the 5th and 6th floor to different startups. So could you speak more to that piece?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, we're part of an ecosystem, right? So the office is bigger than what we need today, and that's good because we accounted for growth for the coming years. But meanwhile, we have empty floors. So what we decided to do is actually to rent those floors out to other Web3 companies and reserve those spots for Web3 companies. So Flowdesk is actually part of the building right now. It's also great to see them, meet them in the elevator or in the patio and chat with them. And again, talking about how, what can we build for the Web3 ecosystem? How can we make it better? So that's what this space is all about.
That's cool. That's pretty interesting. And, I know that you're going to have many conversations today, and the panels also will be recorded. So, as I said, like earlier, we're going to make sure that all of these different panels and the different recordings are available in the show's footnotes so that people can access them and understand what these conversations are going to be all about and how that might help them as builders. I know we're going to be covering some of that as well on the podcast, but let's start with the fundamental principle that you usually like to double click on, which is that there is no self-custody without security. What do you mean by that?
Well, if we start with blockchains, regardless which blockchain, it's always the same. It's always based on the same key pair principle, where you have a public key, which is it's kind of like a postal address, right? So people know where to send those funds. And then you have a private key, which is the key to that mailbox, essentially. So if you lose that key, that's it. You can't access the content of the mailbox anymore. So I think this is the big thing about blockchains is that it allows for those decentralized systems, and so it allows for self-custody. So suddenly, us as users, we can control our data, control our assets, but then with great power comes great responsibilities, to quote Spider-Man, right? You need to put it somewhere. And so all the devices that we have, the laptops, the phones, they're amazing for consuming information, publishing information, sharing information, but they're not built to store secrets. And that's where we come in, right? Our hardware wallets, inside those, we use a secure element, which is the exact same chip that has been protecting bank or government secrets in our passports, in our credit cards for years. They're laser-proof, and they're just high security. So that's what we're using. We built an OS on top of this. We revved it up to the max, and that makes it a real vault for your secrets, those secrets being your crypto keys. So this is really the basic, right? Now it allows the same technology that protected secrets for banks and governments. Now we put that at the service of customers, of users, of any one of us, which then allows us for us to store our own secrets. So that's the basics, yeah.
And there are 3 layers to that. Could you talk about like these 3 different levels to like overall security within like the self-custody realms? Yeah,
so I think those are the 3 properties. Actually, you're seeing our devices right there. In all our devices, they all abide by those basic principles. The good properties of a good hardware wallet is that first, it's a place where you can store secrets, so that we do that with a secure element. The second one is the integrity, meaning that if you have a great place to store your secrets, but then there's like inputs and outputs where the key goes out, or where the algorithms can be tampered, then it defeats the purpose, right? So what we did in our devices is that everything runs within a secure element, nothing ever comes out, so that this way you can temper the algorithm to always output the same address, those kind of things. So that integrity is preserved always. So that's the secure environment. And then the last piece is on all our devices, there's always a screen so that you can actually always double check. And that screen, we call it a trusted display because it's controlled directly by the secure element, right? And this is really a key thing, because whatever you're doing on a blockchain is immutable. Like you sign it, that's it. There's no turning back. So you need to be able to know precisely what you're signing at all times, right? And that's what we call in clear signing. And this is possible thanks to our screens. So I think those are the 3 properties: storing a secret, integrity, and then the trusted display. That shows you each and every moment when someone is accessing your key, is it really what you want to do, so that you can approve or disapprove whatever is happening.
Yeah. And, you mentioned the operating system and the secure element. So obviously there are not a lot of companies out there in the world of hardware that have the hardware, the operating system, and the software. And Ledger is developing all 3. So could you speak more to the relationship and the importance actually of the operating system, what we call today, Ledger Secure OS, used to be called Bolos, and then it was rebranded. So for the developers that are listening to us, you might know it as Bolos. And the secure element and the importance of, the two working together in tandem in order to ensure, the safety of the different apps and the different blockchains and the keys actually that you're using in order to access your assets on different blockchains.
Yeah, so I think it's really what we said is that the keys cannot leave that secure element, and so is all the algorithms that go along with it, with the derivation of the seed to actually get the public address, your private keys for all the different blockchains and all those apps. They're there on the device. So we view the device as a signer, right? But then so it's great, your keys are secure, but what's the point if you can't use them, right? Then the next step is obviously as a user, you want to get the most out of Web3, and this is where the software comes in, because this is the connection to that Web3 world and to the outside world. So that's how we always keep that distinction. So all the software is open source for transparency purposes, so everyone can actually see what it's doing. It's connected to the internet and Web3 and all the crypto services, so you can get the most out of it all. You don't need to be on a centralized exchange. Again, it's about making self-custody possible, and keep that freedom, give that freedom to users. But then the keys always stay on the signer. So you view your portfolio, you view your assets, you connect it to the world, and then whenever you want to confirm and actually make that transaction, and it then talks to the signer, which signs the transaction, and then it's broadcasted by the software. Our devices don't have Wi-Fi, right? That's the whole principle, to keep them offline, to protect your keys. And so it all goes through Ledger Live or the software wallet that you use in to actually then be able to use it. So this is really how our entire stack is architected, and that's our security model.
And the operating system is doing the role of the coordinator and all of that to make sure that this is like happening in a way that doesn't compromise any of the security of whatever keys or assets you have on these different blockchains. Because what I'm trying to get to here is, like, some people would be like, I just want a Bitcoin only device because it's more secure, or I just want an Ethereum only device because, like, if you add more apps, then you're adding more attack vectors. So
so that's false, right? Because so the operating system is the operating system on the device. So that's all it does. Then if you want a Bitcoin only wallet, then just install the Bitcoin app, and that's it, and stop here. Adding more apps does not add more attack vectors because they're all using the same APIs. It just doesn't grow or reduce the number of apps doesn't grow or reduce the attack vectors. It's just they're all using the same API, deriving an address from the seed, then get an address, sign. It's always the same method, but each application is just the developers simply build the algorithm, the elliptic curves, to actually do those different actions that then become available to the software, and that's just how it is. So for Bitcoin Maxis, obviously it's an amazing device. Just use it, and it's cool. Just have the Bitcoin app. If you're an Ethereum Maxi, you can do the same. If you're polyglot and love all the blockchains and you want to embrace Web3, it still is the right device and it's the same, and you're no less secure at all.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I really wanted to touch on that because, like, the operating system is really kind of enabling that level of functionality and security at the same time. So we mentioned, like, firmware applications, right? And there are multiple levels to how you can integrate with Ledger, firmware being one. So, if you have a project like a new coin for a new blockchain out there, you can develop your own firmware application and then work with the Ledger team in order to get your device to communicate with that, the Ledger device to communicate with that given blockchain. Could you speak more to that process and the Ledger SDK?
No, you're absolutely right. So that's the OS, right? Which then on top of the OS, we built an SDK, and that's a world first, by the way. Because this allows any developer in the world to actually build on a secure element. And that has never been done before,
Yeah.
right? Usually you have an NDA with a secure element company, and it's a very closed environment. You send the wrong instruction, and that's it. The secure element wipes itself out. So it's very hard, right? So our team of engineers actually worked on this to then make that SDK so that any C or Rust developer in the world can then build their blockchain app on our devices. So this is really cool. What one needs to know as well is that 90% of the apps that we have are built by third-party developers, right? The Bitcoin and the Ethereum app, for instance, are built by Ledger.
Yeah.
But apart from these, like most of the other ones are actually built by third-party developers. So a lot of foundations build their own app. There's also agencies that specialize in building Ledger apps. So if as a foundation you want to have your blockchain application done, and you don't necessarily have the C or Rust engineers to do it for you, or you just don't have the time, you can actually go through our partners that can help you achieve that and build those. So that's kind of
It's level 1.
That's level 1. So at that point, you have that signer capability. You can get an address. You can sign on the signer. I think level 2 then is we provide an SDK to communicate with our devices. That's one, either by USB or by Bluetooth, and then interact with the applications to actually retrieve the address, get the payload signed so that you can actually then broadcast it on the chain. So that we call that the device management kit. And obviously, Ledger Live has this ability to communicate with the devices, but there's plenty of software wallets out there, like Rabby, Coinbase Wallet, MetaMask, and so on and so forth, that can actually support Ledger devices, so that Ledger users who have their keys protected by the Ledger can actually use those wallets as well. And that's another key principle. Is very important at Ledger, is that openness. Right? We don't, buying a Ledger wallet doesn't trap you in the Ledger ecosystem or Ledger world. We are open at any stage. So even if Ledger does disappear, you still have your hardware wallet. You still can use it with another software wallet. And so that's a key element.
Okay. So that is a very interesting piece, because obviously you have the signing capabilities that come with that first level that we spoke about, and that second level as well. But then your device or Ledger device will be able to communicate with the blockchain using sometimes middlewares or other software wallets, such as the ones you've mentioned, Rabbi, MetaMask, etc. But then after that, there's also the ability to be able to integrate the management of the assets itself in Ledger
Correct.
Live, which is the following step in that like multi-layered cake of integrations, right? So could you speak more to that? And I know a lot of people out there, a lot of developers that want to get their crypto projects, coins. Integrated directly for them to be able to, for their users to be able to like visualize and manage the assets in Ledger Live.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I think just one thing that you said is the device does not interact with the blockchains directly.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a signer, and it's the software that interacts with the blockchain. The software interacts with the device. The software then interacts with the blockchain. And then, as you said, once you get the signer, you want to be able to view all your assets that a specific ecosystem gives you access to, and you want to be able to manage them, and that happens in Ledger Live by default for the Ledger ecosystem. So here, from that perspective, is Ledger Live is open source, so anyone can actually come and integrate within Ledger Live. But obviously, it's our brand, it's our application. Here, it's not an OS, it's an app, right? So if something goes wrong, we are responsible for this, right? So here it's really a partnership, because once you integrate it, it's not the end, right, of the product, it's actually the start, because then suddenly real users in the real world will start using this code, and so it needs to be maintained and done. So for all foundation developers, blockchain developers that want to get integrated into Ledger Live, yeah, absolutely, come to us. We can help you, we can support you, but this is really a partnership, and it's a multi-year partnership that we need to set up, because then once you're in, it's the start of our relationship, and we need to make sure that you're maintaining that piece, right? So that we always have the right quality, the latest feature for your users in your ecosystem, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And then it becomes all about like how you can provide a better user experience in order to make it more secure. Like the overall security is enhancement. So once you're integrating Ledger Live, clear signing becomes a must, because you cannot allow blind signing inside Ledger Live. So that's like an incredible user experience, feature for the users, but it also requires work on the development of the necessary plugins to provide that clear signing piece. Could you speak more to like clear signing inside Ledger Live and then clear signing outside of Ledger Live, because that's like a whole other adventure in terms of the different steps that whether it be dApps or software wallets also will need to partake in that journey in order to make sure that clear signing becomes a standard.
Okay. I think first we need to explain what clear signing is.
Yeah.
If
of
that's
course.
all right. Just a little sentence on this. I think the idea is, so you have the signer with the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the information on the screen that is displayed to you is just a big hexadecimal blob, what does that give you?
Yeah,
We
not
still
much.
don't know. And actually today, that's probably a lot of scammers actually hide in that complexity.
Mm-hmm.
But they get used to like, yeah, you can sign this, and then you actually see it. It's big hexadecimal, and then you sign. It's really like signing a blank check. Really, you're just signing something. You have no idea what's going to be done.
Your
with
keys
this.
are secure, but then you're signing something that you don't understand.
Exactly. It's security at use now is the next step that we're moving in the frontier, right? Because now it's your security at rest. That's done. We got it. You're covered. But now when we're talking about you using it, you're taking a risk because whatever you're doing is immutable. So scammers are trying to trick users today, and they're actually quite successful in this. So us as an ecosystem, in our space, we need to improve from that perspective. So the Clear Signing initiative is not something that's Ledger only. We're driving it because we're seeing it, and we have an idea as to how we can tackle this, and we're doing that with the entire ecosystem. And there's several wallets that are helping us in achieving so. So really, what the idea is that Clear Signing is we're asking dApp engineers to, once they build their smart contract, is actually to provide metadata as to what is the intent, what's the magnitude of the amounts, how to display the amounts, have plain English for the different actions, so that suddenly as a wallet, and all wallets can use this metadata, we can actually display clearly to the user, like, what is it that you're about to sign? And that's what Clear Signing is.
So the dApp is providing the metadata. The wallet is using the device SDK in order to be able to make that link with the Ledger
To
device
pass that metadata.
to pass that information.
Exactly. It's all signed, so it can't be tampered by anyone in the process. And so then the signer gets this signed metadata, and then can extract it, parses the transaction, does the mapping with the metadata, and then actually can display something to you
Human
that's in
readable.
plain English. You can go, oh, okay. Does that match? Is that really what I want to do? Yeah, okay, cool. And then you hold and sign, and you're
In
good.
theory, it sounds kind of like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Technically, it takes a lot of steps in order for the Ledger device to be able to achieve that and display that information in a human readable form. One question I'd like to probably dive into is who curates the metadata and how is that achieved? Could you speak more to the kind of process that's going to be put in place in order for the community at large to be able to ensure that the metadata curation piece doesn't become an attack vector in itself? Yeah,
Absolutely. So today we put up a repository which is accessible to everyone, for everyone to be able to post their metadata. So the metadata in itself is a set of JSON files that kind of describes all what we talked about. So today it's centralized because it's that GitHub which is done and maintained by us. And when you're doing this, you're doing a pull request, and we can review this and make sure that all this is legit and properly done. But it's just the beginning, right? What we want to be able to do is provide more tooling, provide safeguards. There's plenty of what we call Web3 checks API, which we could link into this. And if we know that this is actually a scammy smart contract, then that metadata for that smart contract has no place on there, right? So we're going to add all those things. I think that's number one. And then number two, once we get a nice collection and we get we've initiated this virtuous circle of DApp builders providing this metadata and wallets using that metadata. Then we'd love to decentralize this. And this is an open conversation. It's actually a call for the whole ecosystem. If you're interested and you want to help us in this journey, we're super happy to have you on board and chat about all this.
We just had the launch of our Ledger Clear signing page online, so you can find all the information there, as well as the roadmap and how you can contribute to this. Could you speak more to the roadmap? So I know that, actually last week was, the announcement with Rabbi. So Rabbi is now enhancing its clear signing capabilities. There's a version 1 of the Ledger Device SDK that was provided to Rabbi in order to be able to achieve that.
Correct.
What are the next steps, and what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah. So the first step was defining the metadata. Because we need this to be successful. We need this to be used by the entire ecosystem. It's not something for Ledger; it's something for users, and we need DApp developers to contribute, software wallets to contribute, and that's why we need to provide the tools for the ecosystem. So the repository, which is the central source where everybody can post this metadata, the device management kit, which allows the interactions with the devices and can pass on this metadata, and this is very important for wallet builders to then be able to put that into place. So that was the first step. So we built the pipelines essentially, but then we got to do that for every ecosystem. So this year we started with Ethereum because there's a lot of activity out there, and so it felt like the right place to start. And then for each ecosystem, there's lots of different types of assets that you need to be able to clear sign. So we started with transactions and messages because they're the simplest one. We're right now working on more advanced smart contract interactions. That's going to be the next. And then we need to do that ecosystem by ecosystem. I think we can do better on Bitcoin, so we're going to be doing that. We need to secure Solana, we need to secure Tron, we need to secure just all of them, right? So that's going to take some time. So that's also another call for arms. Anyone who want to help us in this journey, you're all welcome. And actually, the Tron team, kudos to them. They're super active and super proactive about it. So we're definitely thinking about that. But everyone is interested, and I think everyone is very aware of the problem that we have in our space with all those scammers. So we really need to protect our users and make blind signing a thing of the past.
Yeah. And, this in itself is a win because a couple of years ago, that wasn't even a conversation, right? Like, we had to go through different levels of education.
You have to protect
what
the key
is blind
first,
signing?
right?
Yeah.
Done. That we solved. Now it's security at use. And now we're really going into convenience, right? And how to make it good. So.
And the thing is, it's if, we want to be a walled garden and be like, okay, security is only like kind of provided through the Ledger ecosystem and it's only on Ledger Live. It's first of all not the vision at all, but second of all, it's a huge bottleneck because you can't integrate everything into Ledger Live. It can't just become like an app store. So the idea is then how do you get to work with all of these different people at the same time?
Our mission
to do this across the board.
Our mission is to secure the ecosystem, right? It's not to secure Ledger users. Our mission is to secure Web3, right? And we're only going to do that all together. And that's why whatever we're building, we're not building it just for us, our users. We're building it for the Web3 ecosystem. We're self-custody maximalists. That's what we are.
I love that. And, another thing that's probably helping out in that journey is the new form factor of the device because you have a wider screen.
Bigger screen, touch-enabled. So suddenly it makes it so much easier to double-check, don't trust, verify what's happening, read it, and then if you're happy with it, then boom, sign it, right?
Cool. And why is it a secure touchscreen? Could you touch on that a little bit more? We mentioned it at the beginning of the conversation, but there are, technical challenges into making a wider screen that is also secure. So speak more about like the architecture there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not the best to talk about it because I'm a software guy more than a hardware firmware guy. But as we said, I think the key property of our hardware wallets is that the screen is actually handled by the secure element to maintain the integrity. And that's the big difference in between our phones and those devices is that the keys and the algorithms using the keys don't leave the secure element, so they can't be tampered with a virus or malware. That makes them completely malware resistant. And that's not the case with your Android phone. So if you were to do the same thing with an Android phone, an application could be tempered, and it could absolutely say, yeah, you're signing this, when in reality it's something else that happens. Or it could access your keys without even you knowing and extract them, right? Whereas in the OS, and because it's a secure element, whenever you're accessing the keys, it asks for your PIN. So you can very visibly see, there's like, oh, there's an access here required, and I can infirm or confirm or infirm.
Okay.
So I think that's the basic of the idea here. And then the challenge for the team obviously was to build a graphic library and have a much bigger screen, which is now handled by just the same processing power, the same secure element that you have in the Nano X. And you can see it's really, in terms of pixels,
and it's a chip
not
that's
the same
not designed for
quantity,
that.
right?
Yeah, it's a chip that
It's a chip designed for passports and credit cards initially, right? So it's really that's the novelty, and that's the world first.
Yeah.
We here is just we revved it up to the max, building an
Totally.
entire OS, SDK on top of it, so that third-party devs can actually build in this secure environment, and whatever they're displaying and coding in their application is actually displayed on that secure screen.
Yeah, your credit card doesn't have a screen.
Nope.
Your passport doesn't have a screen either.
Nope,
Or your Ledger
not
device
yet.
does have one.
Ledger is the-
Yeah, that's another interesting point we could get into. But that is something that I usually try to explain to people all the time. Is like you're saying, okay, what is the importance of a secure screen? Well, the importance of a secure screen is that you cannot trust whatever you see on whichever screen, but you can trust what you see on your ledger, because ultimately what is driving the screen's power is actually the secure element chip that is protecting the secrets, and it's the chip that's designed for security. But the innovation there is that you're using e-ink in order to enable it to, secure the screen and power a screen, and that's why e-ink is the choice, because it doesn't consume power. And people come up to me and are like, oh, when is the Ledger Color coming? I was like, that's probably a little bit harder than what you think.
Screen. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're not looking at this today, but no. The whole idea with those. So here you're bringing another innovation, which is the e-ink screen. Actually, that was important to us because, again, what we noticed with the old ones is that a lot of people had several and would put stickers on them to say, okay, this is my DAO wallet, this is my NFT wallet, and so on and so forth, right? And so what's great with Stacks or Flex is that now you can actually put your NFT on it or any picture on it, because the e-ink, it doesn't consume any energy. But yet, if we were the two of us to put our stacks on the table, that'd be different. And we know in a glimpse of an eye, that this one is yours, this one is mine. And actually, I love that trend that we're seeing on social media right now, with people actually posting their background screen or their lock screen on social media, and they're all different. It's all very creative. So that's really cool.
These are devices that you're almost using on a daily basis, right? Like it needs to have that also like emotional connection to the device. It's like, you think about it like, I feel like the form factor and the usage of the device is also evolving with the technology itself. Like back in the day, most people used to use their ledgers in order to hodl their Bitcoins. And you weren't probably making, Bitcoin transactions on a daily basis. Today, probably most people are using their ledger almost on a daily basis, but a few times a week, either to, access DeFi or, NFTs, or now with, the Ledger Security Key app, you could be using your ledger on a daily basis in order to, log into your exchange account or to LinkedIn or any of these, other areas where you would be using second factor authentication. So having that level of customization and the the form factor and the ability to like kind of make that device feel not only functional but also like kind of beautiful in some way, or at least aesthetically pleasing, is really a core feature in the development of the overall technology. It's not about store of value anymore. It's actually a medium of exchange, and it's something that you're using on a daily basis. But I want to go back to Secure Element and to everything actually that we've been talking about around openness and transparency. I think there are a lot of people that says, oh, but Ledger is closed source because we don't have access to the Secure Elements code. But then that first of all, that claim of Ledger being closed source is something that I'd love you to like kind of get into, because there's only like a very small part of Ledger's code base that is closed source, and there's a reason for it. And then everything else is actually accessible and open for people to either review or actually fully open source. So could you speak more to that whole like stack of code?
So to be able to work on a secure element, you need to sign an SDA with a secure element manufacturer, right? We are using MicroST as a provider, and they've been providing secure elements to the world for
military
decades,
grade
right?
security.
Exactly, military grade security. That's what it is. So to be able to build on there, one element of that security is actually that confidentiality. So we have no choice here. So that's the part of the stack which is closed due to that NDA.
And on top of that, that's a feature, not a bug in some way. Like if it was open,
so that was a choice. Yeah, exactly. Because there are other hardware wallets out there that are using open source chips that are actually not secure elements. It's standard MCUs, and then it's not safe. The security at rest that we were talking about, the first
physical
property,
attack.
Exactly. If you lose your wallet,
your device,
all right, it's just a matter of time before someone can extract their secrets.
With like laser,
and
attacks.
A security research lab, the Donjon, shows that every day. And actually, what we're doing for other wallets, our wallets go through the Donjon as well, and they always make sure that no one can do it. Like
they break them first.
Do it. Yeah, they break. It's actually
break
that's
them and
what we're
patch
doing.
them.
Exactly. We always give it to them. They break it. We fix it. They break it. There's that game, constant game. And it's not just us. We also use third-party auditors as well to ensure that we have that security at rest at all times. So when you're using a standard CPU or MCU to store your secrets. Then that's it. You don't tick that box. You don't have that security.
There's a compromise. You might be transparent.
That's exactly. You prioritize transparency over security. We chose security.
Not compromising on security.
Exactly.
Okay.
Security is first.
So that's the first piece of the puzzle.
And then the rest is all open source.
Okay.
The entire stack.
So let's go through.
So the device SDK that we talked about, the device management kit to contact with, the device app kit to build your app. Is open source. The apps are open source. The device management kit to interact is open source. Ledger Live is open source. Most of the software
Ledger Recover.
Ledger Recover. So like all that, actually, a third party could build a Recover and become a backup provider for Ledger Recover as well, right? So like, and most of the software wallets out there using, I'm thinking MetaMask, for instance, that's also open source. So should you want to, you could literally review and see exactly how this entire chain works and is built.
And we have a lot of documentation around this that we're going to add to the show's footnotes as well, so people can go into this. I always have these like very interesting conversations about like Ledger being closed source, and I actually am very much enjoying the fact that we're bringing it to more people through this platform, because it is a choice, and ultimately, first of all, the secure element piece is a choice, but the overall claim is wrong. Go ahead.
But I think what I want to say about this is like, if we could, we would. Make it entirely, right? But not at the expense of security. Our top mission is to protect users. That's why people trust us, right? So we can't go against that.
Totally.
That's what I mean. But if there was a way to make it entirely open source, absolutely. Exactly.
So talk to us a little bit more about like the developer portal and the documentation that's available for developers out there. You're going to be talking to a lot of people in the building today. Some people are not with us today, in the building, but they're going to be with us here, watching us on their screens. So let them know how they can collaborate with Ledger and what are the different avenues through which they can collaborate and build with Ledger. Correct.
So we have the Ledger OS, and we have what we call the Ledger OS SDK, which is a Galaxy. It essentially contains a library, a collection of kits. We talked a few of them: the device app kit to create your app, the device management kit to interact with the devices and the applications on them. But then we have way more. You can extend Ledger Live. The Ledger Live kit. You also have what we call a Ledger Exchange kit, so that crypto services like on-ramp, off-ramp, swap providers can also integrate and extend. So we got plenty of stuff. We also support Wallet Connect. So there's all those points where you can build upon or extend the Ledger ecosystem. And all this is available on our developer portal. It's all self-service. You get all the documentation with the links to the repos. We also have tools and bullet plates that are accessible. The way it is structured is really 4 main categories. If you want to build a device app, so that's more for foundations. If you want to interact with our devices, that's for wallets. And then all the connectivity for dApps. And then on top of this, we're kind of adding horizontal features, which is kind of like clear signing, keyring protocol that we're adding to our developer portal. So all this is accessible online, and you got all the information to get started.
That's amazing. What kind of advice would you give to developers out there today?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. To build with Ledger or in general, and you mentioned something earlier, is that there are a lot of developers out there that aren't in crypto yet. They aren't in Web3. They're not, they're using other languages. So maybe you can speak, to those as well.
Well, I think today Web2 feels like medieval times, where you have like the Twitter castle and the Amazon castle, and we kind of repeating the same data, username, password, name, first name, last name, address. You remember COVID times, like passport, and then last vaccination date, and all that kind of stuff. And we just replicated this data in all those castles, right? And that's where the blockchain comes in. It then creates that layer which interconnects all of them. And that's why I'm so passionate about self-custody, because then suddenly we can actually give back the data to users. And that's what we're building, right? This can't exist without security. That's the first step. And then now we need to create the connectivity, and we need to get the web to kind of evolve in a place where instead of having those username passwords everywhere, with my crypto keys, I can actually connect each and every time. And then the next step after that is I want to control my identity. I want to control my data, and I can actually just share the data on a moment and then revoke it. I'm kind of thinking ZK proof probably as I am. Like, you have all those proofs. So if you need to know if I'm a European citizen, I don't need to show you my entire life. I just here's the proof of my citizenship. Here's the proof of my humanity. Here's the proof of my majority, and those kind of things. And I think that's what we're trying to build. And so we need all developers, not just Web3 developers. Everyone, and us on the Web3 we need to create the technology to make all this possible, with privacy and data management and decentralization possible, so that it's sustainable over time. But then we need to provide this technology for Web2 devs to kind of be able to easily embrace it and use it, so that all the services suddenly move from the medieval times into the modern era.
Amazing. I think so many different use cases actually are starting to become a lot more substantially kind of developed compared to before, where within the crypto space it was only about protecting digital assets, and now cryptography is enabling a wide spectrum of different use cases that are becoming more relevant than ever when it comes to data protection, when it comes to identity verification, overall authentication, in a world where AI is probably going to make it a lot harder for us to trust what we're seeing on our different screens and on the internet in a more general sense. And I think, the foundational technology that exists today with, hardware and cryptography would probably, help solve some of these problems. So it's Ledger's 10-year anniversary. Ledger's existed for 10 years. And we're talking about all of these different pieces of the puzzle that kind of are forming probably the future of Ledger, but not only the future of Ledger, the future of the ecosystem. Where would we be in 10 years from now?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So let's we had 2014 Ledger founding team decided to, use chip and pin technology in order to protect private keys, Bitcoin private keys. 2024, we're here today. We're talking about secure touchscreens and Ledger Live and all of these services being integrated, and clear signing, which is now, how the technology is being used. But we're still talking about, other pieces of the puzzle, like I said, identity, data protection, etc. So where will we be in 2034, and what is it going to take for everyone that's in the building here today to work together and achieve in order to make that a reality?
Oh, that's a very broad So I think, let's see. obviously, now it's been over 10 years that we got blockchains. So it's proven that we're here to stay. Compared to if I look at what happened in the last 15 years in the blockchain space, until very recently, in the grand scheme of things, right? Until very recently, it didn't scale. And now we have a lot of block space, right? So I think we're going to see more and more use cases of that block space. The decentralized computer is there, but still pretty slow, and I think we're going to have much more decentralized compute space that will allow for a lot more use cases. We started, I think the easiest use case and the one that we're seeing today is digital money. So we got that one. We've seen digital titles of ownership, and with that, it allowed for digital art. So I'm thinking there's, those, depending on regulation and how it's adopted, there's a lot of big stuff here. And Balaji would talk way better about that network stack and stuff. But I think this is kind of where we're going. So what I mean to say is there's going to be a digitalization of value, real world digital assets. We're seeing that as well. So more and more types of assets, more use cases. We got the scalability to foster this now. What that means for us in the ecosystem is supporting those scenarios, making sure that we have a technology that is easily adoptable by the web too, and that this kind of goes into mainstream and into our daily lives naturally. And so in 2034, I hope there's no more passwords, that we're using passkeys, and we just, with a tap, kind of go here and there. I can control my data. I can control my identity. I can pass borders just by tapping a gate, and saying my proof of citizenship. That kind of all goes away. That have an NFT to prove the ownership of my car or my house, and as I go through MOTs and servicing and change parts of my cars, my metadata changes, and then I can go on chain and sell that to anyone and gets the metadata that goes along with it, and there's that unique record in this open database. So I think it's gonna, to me, the next 10 years, we're going to see the data kind of change from that perspective. And in parallel to this, you got AI, which is going to generate even more information, more data, more reuse. And that's kind of the kind of power, right? Because then we're going to be talking to agents everywhere, and it's going to be about, are you human or not? And you got to have that proof of humanity and that control over data, when at the same time we'll be able to create more information and data more than ever. So it's really the two tracks of information and value, and regain control of our data.
Perfect. I think that's the perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
Regain control of our data and of our value. Super inspiring. I hope, the different conversations that you have today also bring some of that inspiration about how we can create a better future, build a better future, more secure one. Carl, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you have a good day upstairs. I'll try to join you guys for some of the workshops and the different panels.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Ledger podcast in our newly launched format. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please hit like, subscribe on YouTube, or follow the show wherever you're listening to it to help us help you make the best out of our content.